So what really got me is to get away from vegan vegetarianism was the idea of protein. Protein is very important. There are different kinds of protein, but the best protein is found in animal foods like meat, fish, eggs, and so on, dairy. And I realized that I wasn't getting enough protein, and most people are not getting enough protein. In fact, even the average person who is not a vegan or vegetarian is not getting enough protein. Why does meat get such a bad rap? This has a kind of a long history with it. Ultimately, the reason why meat gets a bad rap is because in the 1950s and 1960s, some people, led by a notorious, you might say, scientist named Ansel Keys, decided that cholesterol in the blood causes heart disease. To my way of thinking, now that we can look at all the evidence, is unfounded. Nevertheless, it got stuck as a hypothesis and very much accepted. It's very difficult to dislodge now because, I mean, face it, the entire medical system is practically based on this idea that cholesterol causes heart disease. They quickly figured out that eating cholesterol in a diet does not raise blood cholesterol levels, but then they decided that eating saturated fat did raise cholesterol levels, and therefore that you should eat less saturated fat if you didn't want to have a heart attack. So what has saturated fat in it? Well, the big culprits there are meat and eggs and so on, and dairy products. So they told everybody to cut back on all those. So that is the origins of meat getting a bad rap. What happened when people started eating less meat is right about the same time the obesity epidemic in the United States began. And I think that they are very much related. When people eat less protein, they get hungrier, they have to eat more. So there you have it. So that's why the idea of going vegan or vegetarian in itself doesn't hold water for your health. Getting rid of the garbage food and eating whole foods does.
Right. But many of the vegetarians or vegans would say that there is evidence that meat causes cancer, specifically colon cancer. I remember some years ago that the World Health Organization placed meat as one of the things that you can eat that can put you at risk of having cancer. Would you say that the evidence is not strong enough to claim that?
Yes, I would say exactly that. For one thing, as is very clear by now, the World Health Organization is a political organization. And so there have been some very good critiques written about their decision about, to talk about meat. And ultimately, the evidence is extremely weak. So let me give you an example. Let's say that let's say the World Health Organization makes this proclamation about meat, and let's say we take that at face value. Let's say we take that as true. This gets into areas of what is known as relative risk versus absolute risk. So they might say something like eating a lot of meat raises your risk of colon cancer by 25%, something like that. Well, if you look at your lifetime risk of colon cancer, it's about 4.5%. Okay, so everybody alive has about 4.5% chance of getting colon cancer in their lifetime. So if you raise that by 25%, what do you get? You get about a 5% lifetime risk of colon cancer. So even if we accept that at face value, and I don't, to be clear, risk goes from 4.5% to 5%. It hardly even seems like anything to even think about. This kind of evidence comes from epidemiological studies. So what they do there is they take a whole bunch of people. There have been a number of these kinds of studies. They look at a whole bunch of people, hundreds of thousands, even millions maybe, and they try to find out what they eat and what other lifestyle factors they have, and then they follow these people for a certain period of time and sees who got what, who died of what, and so on. So there are a number of problems here. One is called healthy user bias. So healthy user bias just means that healthy people, health conscious people, are more likely to do a whole set of things. Okay, so in the last, let's say, 40 years, health conscious people have heard from above, from all the expert sources, that they should eat less meat, and so they did that. Okay, I shouldn't eat as much meat. It's not good for my health, so I'll eat less meat. These health conscious people are also the same people who are very likely to exercise regularly, to stay normal weight, not get overweight, to not drink alcohol in excess, not to smoke, all these things. The healthy things go together. This is healthy user bias, and so there could be an effect such that these people are healthier, but it has nothing to do with what they ate. It's their overall behaviors. It has to do with who they are, their genetics even. So that's healthy user bias. And the epidemiology itself, where they try to find out what people are eating, some of these things are frankly ridiculous. Like, they would sit someone down, give them a questionnaire, and then you have to figure out, you have to give them an answer to, for example, like, how many pickles did I eat over the last year? How many times did you eat pizza? How many times did you eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I mean, I can't even remember what I ate yesterday. And they're asking people these huge questions about what they eat. There's all these things that, the whole meat causing cancer thing is wrong. Now, let me just give you one other thing here. When they look at things like, visceral obesity, that's having body fat inside your abdomen. And so that's really bad. It's bad for health. And they've looked at rates of colon cancer in these people. And they have rates of colon cancer from something like from 3 to 6 times higher than people who don't have visceral obesity. So there you go. That's the kind of thing that is causing colon cancer. I'm not saying it might not be the only thing, but that's a huge increase in risk. The increase in risk from meat is so small that we should just ignore it.
Ciao! Se questa breve clip ti è piaciuta, ricordati di cliccare lì per iscriverti al canale e rimanere sempre aggiornato. Qua puoi trovare altre clip interessanti e qua puoi trovare il link all'episodio completo. Ci vediamo alla prossima!